without question, one of the most difficult issues that I and many people like me who speak on this topic have to deal with in faith communities or in speaking to people in churches is the question of human population. And it stems from the fact that you can state without any controversy at all that there are more people alive on this earth right now than there have ever been, than have ever lived before in human history. When I was born, the population of the earth was somewhere around 2.5 billion. We're now 6 billion, closing on 7. We expect it'll top out at somewhere between 8 and 10. So that's not a matter of argument. It's simply a statement of fact. There are more people alive on earth right now than have ever lived before in human history. All those people need space to live, use resources, and so on and so on. This population problem is a unique challenge for us as Christians. And it is so because we firmly believe that God created us in His image, that it's not too much to say we're the crown of His creation. He's given us authority over this creation and made us I like to think of us as His managers of creation, which has some pretty awesome responsibility overtones to it that maybe we can discuss. But He's created us in His image. He's created us with dignity. He's created us as reflections of His glory. He's created us for relationship with Him, which means every human being that is born should have the opportunity to live, to be happy, to be healthy, and to know God. And it's harder and harder to see how this is going to happen in the slums of Port-au-Prince, Haiti, or in other desperately overcrowded countries. So that's why it's a problem for us, is because every human being is precious, and you can argue, and some do, images of God, the more the merrier. And yet every image of God needs a certain amount of physical resources in order to live and to be the person living in the image of God that God wants him to be. And it's hard to see on a finite planet how that's going to happen. So, what do we do? That's the real challenge and the real question. And it would appear that there's two answers to that. One is we don't have to do anything because there's nothing we can do. Now that doesn't sound like it makes a lot of sense, so let me explain. All the authorities tend to agree that the population curve is going to level out somewhere between 8 and 10 million sometime around I think it's in around 2050. That's what the best UN estimates suggest, that the population curve is going to level out. That's going to happen naturally. It's already happening in many countries. A number of European countries have gone into negative growth. Mm-hmm. Even the bigger countries are starting to level off. We still have some pockets of challenge, Pakistan, Kenya, places like that, where there's still families having 5, 6, 7 babies, but for the most part, most of the world, family sizes are coming down, and that seems to be, according to the authorities who are looking at this, for two reasons. Number one, better education of women. When young women grow up educated and understanding a bit more about their world and their place in it, they tend to want to have less children. And number two, better child care. And this sounds counterintuitive, but it actually turns out that if a family, husband, wife, or the mother can be reasonably confident that her 1 or 2 babies will live to adulthood, as opposed to 50% chance they'll die before they're 1, she'll have less babies. Because these are happening, education and improved health care, human population increase rates are dropping and will continue to drop. But that's not the end of the story, because between now and 2050, there is built in what's called population momentum. No matter what we did, if every government in the world today were to issue a decree for zero population growth, you would still have an increase because of all the young people who haven't had their babies yet. That's what the momentum is. You've got, girls and women who are 1, 5, 10, 15 years old, haven't had any babies. They have to, or the human race screeches to a halt right there. So because they represent the last population bulge, there's still that momentum. So even though we talk a lot about population, and it looks on the surface like it's a number problem, it turns out it really isn't a number problem. It's an affluence problem or a consumption problem. Because it's been demonstrated pretty clearly that if you and I were to live at the same level that our grandparents lived, same amount of energy use, same amount of material consumption, same number of calories being eaten as just our grandparents, just one generation back, then there'd be plenty of stuff in the whole world for everyone. The fact that our houses are 5 times as big, we have 3 cars where Grandma and Grandpa had 1, if any, that we have cell phones falling out of our pockets, and not just us, but all the newly wealthy in every country in the world. This is, as much as anything, what the real problem is.